The heck is that? Sounds like it's coming from over there. It's taking shape, but what is it saying? Wait, Huey? Is that you? Hold on. Maybe if I gave you some anima, that might stabilize your soul more. Okay, let's see. Oh, I know. See you at the movies.
Anime movies, that is. Hey, it worked! I can talk normally again!
Great! Now, can you tell me how you ended up in this hellhole?
Oh man, I have no fracking idea. Last thing I remember was you and me wrapping up our review of Simba the King Lion, and then suddenly everything goes black, and then I wake up in this computer-generated nightmare. What's going on, Isaac? Is CGI behind all this? Or have I actually died and this is my eternal torment for giving Alvin Omega a positive review? And here I thought having a broken computer was bad enough.
Well, I don't know why, and while technically you have died, resurrection might be an option. If I know my isekai well, it should be possible to bring you back to your original body, wherever that is.
Hey, I'm scared and desperate enough to try anything right now, so go ahead and work your World of Warcraft magic on me, man.
Well, first, let's get out of here. Just gotta reach the exit. Okay, we're finally back home.
Thank God.
Still, it's good to have found you again. I was wondering what you were doing all these years.
Wait. Years? How long have I been gone exactly?
Well, it's 2021, so 3 years?
What? I've been gone for 3 years? Oh jeez, I must have lost almost all of my subscribers by now.
But on the bright side, at least you missed out on 2020.
Why? What happened in 2020?
You don't want to know.
Oh.
Look, I'll have my mages work on finding your body or whatever they have to do. In the meantime, you want to hang out or do something while you're here?
Like what? I'm just a soul, remember? Can be kind of hard to do anything without any arms or legs.
Oh, that's no problem. You don't need that for a review, perhaps?
What did you have in mind?
Well, for you, how about something with dinosaurs? Something good with dinosaurs?
Can it be a movie or a TV show?
Either is fine, just as long as it's not too long.
I think I might have something in mind.
Welcome to Season 7 of the Media Hunter Show. Looks like we're kicking it off with a crossover with Huey Toonmore, or what's left of him.
Hey guys.
As you can see, he's not really feeling quite like himself at the moment.
Gee, what gave it away? The fact that I'm a talking floating ball of light, or the fact that I spent the last 3 years in a poorly CG animated hellscape?
Well, in the meantime, how about we give you a different body to inhabit? Just to tide you over for now.
Really? You sure that's a good idea?
It's fine. Maestro, if you please.
Ah! Man, that stings!
How's that for starters?
Are you sure you couldn't give me anything, bigger?
Well, we can try again later, once he's refilled on mana. But for now, we should really get started.
Yeah, okay.
Alright then. So for this review, I let Huey pick out the thing we'll be looking at today.
And I chose this.
In this savage land, one man stands alone, Jack Tenrek, defending humanity in a world gone mad. A world where only the strong survive. A world of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was an American/Canadian animated television series produced by D'Souza Productions, Galaxy Films, and Nelvana, which aired in the United States from 1993 to 1994. It is based off the comic book Xenozoic Tales by Mark Schultz, which took place in a post-apocalyptic future where Earth's major cities have been ravaged by pollution and natural disasters, which, over the next 600 years, has somehow resulted in the resurrection of the dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures who have since reclaimed the planet. In this new era for humans, technology is extremely limited, and those with mechanical skills command a great deal of respect and influence.
The comic started out as a black and white comic published by the now defunct Kitchen Sink Press from 1987 to 1996. But the first 6 issues were eventually reprinted by Marvel Comics in full color, and under the new name of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, starting in 1990 and lasting till 1991. This awesome sounding premise was too much to contain in just a single medium, so it was later adapted into a role-playing game in 1990, a side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade game produced by Capcom in 1993, and even a rail shooter in 1994 for the Sega CD and PC. But as Huey said, we're just going to be focusing on the TV series.
And how appropriate is it that this show came out in 1993, the year of the dinosaur?
Well, given everything that came out that year, from Jurassic Park to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'd say they were jumping on the dino wagon.
So strap on your seatbelt and shift gear into overdrive, for this is Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Now, as per the intro, this series is set in the post-apocalyptic future of the 26th century. So not only have dinosaurs returned to roam the Earth, but it seems a second moon is orbiting the planet. But despite this, humans in this world still have their standard transportation vehicles, and their clothing is about as normal as post-apocalyptic settings get.
It's like Mad Max meets Dinotopia. The first Mad Max movie, not the sequels. Well, maybe a bit of the sequels, too.
We get our first look at one of our main protagonists, Hannah Dundee, voiced by Susan Roman, aka Sailor Jupiter in the original Deke dub of Sailor Moon, who is an ambassador from a place called Wassoon, heading to the City in the Sea. But she and her convoy get ambushed by HAMR Tahoon, leader of a band of poachers, along with his brothers, Wrench and Vice, who attack using falling trees, large nets, and even antique future technology. Man, I'd hate to see what kind of weaponry the future had before the apocalypse.
Speaking of, look at those strange devices hooked up to the front of the cars. I'd have to guess they're used to power the engine since it doesn't look like gasoline exists in this age.
Maybe they run on recyclable energy?
Makes sense. I mean, with dinosaurs around again, I doubt they'd be needing fossil fuels. Hannah is able to escape the ambush and continue on foot to the City in the Sea. Meanwhile, we're introduced to our main hero of the series, Cadillac Jack Tenrec, voiced by David Keeley, aka the sheriff from Erie, Indiana, the other dimension, a member of a tribe called the Old Blood Mechanics, who has a passion for restoring vintage car shells, namely 1950s Cadillacs. Speaking of, isn't Cadillac a copyrighted name of the General Motors company? So how was it that this show was able to afford the use of the name?
Maybe Marvel convinced them it would get kids into their brand of retro vehicles? I mean, they did rename the comic series before the TV series.
Either way, this was how I was introduced to the name Cadillac in the first place. But what I really have to admire here is the animation in the scene where Jack is first introduced. I mean, just look at the reflection of the scenery going by in the car's headlight, or the way Jack's shirt flutters in the wind as he's driving.
The animation in this series, for the most part, is very stylized and fluid, especially with how the cars operate. There's even little details like the 1957 Cadillac crest above the back license plate, that also references the comic's original name somewhat. While it's not perfect, it certainly looks a cut above most other animated shows at the time. Just the way they have Jack driving through a herd of Brachiosaurus so casually is awesome enough as it is. Though as the series goes on, there is a bit of a dip in quality, though that can be attributed to how this show turned out.
Jack arrives at a town on fire and volunteers to help, but the townspeople are angry and blame him for their town being destroyed by a beast called a Shivet, when Jack said it was safe for them to build there as Shivets never come down into the area. And judging from that footprint, I'm guessing they might be dealing with a Tyrannosaurus.
We listened to you and your nonsense about the Machinatio Vitae.
The machinery of life is a balance. We have to maintain it.
Not at this price. This time we only lost our houses. What if next time it's our lives?
The great beasts fear us as much as we fear them. It won't come back.
And what if it does?
Then I'll destroy it.
He seems like the kind of person who respects nature a whole lot, and only willing to take a life if it's absolutely necessary. And even if it does come to that, you can tell that he regrets even considering the idea. as it goes against his teachings.
Jack's tribe follows a creed called the Machinatio Vitae, or as he refers to it, the machinery of life, sort of like the circle of life, a balance between both nature and technology, in which to ensure that humanity doesn't progress too quickly as to endanger themselves and harming the environment.
In the meantime, we learn that HAMR and his band are working for one of the 3 governors of the City in the Sea, Wilhelmina Scharnhorst, voiced by Dawn Greenhalgh, aka Queen Celeste from the Babar TV series, as she provides them with weapons, and in return, he helps her in actively trying to destroy Jack's reputation because he keeps holding back her city's so-called progress, even disrespecting his belief in the machinery of life.
Just like a corrupt politician, giving the middle finger to nature if it means obtaining resources through illegal means. Anyway, Hannah finally comes upon the City in the Sea, which is revealed to have once been New York City when she takes a closer look with her binoculars. I'm getting some serious AI vibes right now. Suddenly, her discovery is interrupted when the Shiva that attacked the town from earlier arrives on the scene. And what do you know? I was right! It is a T-Rex! And I am really digging this design. Just look at that armored head with the green scales and horns over its eyes. It kind of reminds me of a William Stout dinosaur illustration from the 80s or 90s. In fact, all the dinosaurs in the show kind of look like something William Stout would have designed. Speaking of which, Stout actually did do some cover art for the Topps Cadillacs and Dinosaurs comics in 1994.
The dino designs in this series definitely feel 90s as heck, and you can believe they might have adapted to this point because of the setting we have, so they don't have to be completely accurate. And even then, it's offset by how this show operates, which we'll get more into later. For now, as she wonders why the Shivet, T-Rex, or whatever, didn't even see her. She hears the sound of Jack's Cadillac, and thinking he's a bad guy, shoots out one of his tires. This causes him to crash, and begins having a strange premonition.
You must trust the Machinatio Vitae. Trust the machinery of life.
But the Shivet, I have to destroy it.
So now we have lizard people in this world as well? And it's sounding like Jack knows this one personally. So what's that about?
This is Hob, voiced by Don Franks, aka Mock from Rock and Roll, a member of a species of lizard people called Grith, who are able to speak telepathically and also live by the machinery of life creed. And if I had to guess, may have even been the ones to come up with the creed in the first place. His design kind of reminds me of that infamous Dinosauroid statue made by Dale Russell in 1982, based on the old hypothesis if some non-avian dinosaurs like Pteranodon were able to escape extinction and continue to evolve into intelligent humanoid creatures.
Dang, some people actually believed that? Well, then again, if they could do that in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, anything is possible. Anyway, Hannah believes Jack is a poacher, but he is able to convince her that he's an old-blood mechanic and how there's more of him in the area, and will only take her to the City in the Sea after he replaces the tire.
Hey, how come I'm doing all the work?
Because you shot the tire.
These two are gonna get along so nicely. On the way, they overhear a radio broadcast by Governor Scharnhorst, which helps us learn how the city's government works and how she really thinks of Jack.
Jack Tenrick and his mechanic friends are relics. They are the real dinosaurs. By telling us we can't build where we want to and plant where we want to, they are slowing progress. They are stopping development. They are taking food out of the mouths of your children.
Quahoon.
Quahoon? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Oh, it's a new sort of expression or swear word people in the show use whenever they're either angry or shocked. And you may as well get used to it because this won't be the only time it's ever uttered in the series.
Quahoon. 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 Quahoon.
Not sure why they need to come up with that. The future is weird.
You know, I think I might actually start using that word sometime. So Jack takes Hannah to his garage, which is more like a heavily built fortress complete with a retractable drawbridge. It's here we're introduced to Jack's engineer partner, Mustafa Cairo, and Hermes, an Allosaurus or cutter Jack rescued as a baby when his mother was killed by poachers, who acts as a guard dog for the garage, but is really just all bark and no bite.
You notice how they seem to be giving the dinosaurs different species names? What's that about?
Well, it is addressed that humans had previously been living in underground shelters for the past 500 years, so I guess over time they would have forgotten the appropriate name for each dinosaur species and came up with new ones. In fact, let's go over a few of them, shall we? Shivet. Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Cutter. Allosaurus.
Mac. Triceratops.
Tree grazer. Brachiosaurus.
Wahonchuk. Stegosaurus.
Zeke. Pteranodon.
Bonehead. Pachycephalosaurus. Kind of self-explanatory there. But most of the time, all dinosaurs are commonly referred to as slithers. Not to mention we have other prehistoric animals like Dimetrodon, saber-toothed cats, Forest raucus, cave hyenas, woolly mammoths, and even a Glyptodon.
I guess humanity must have suffered big time if they lost all knowledge of Earth's past prior to whatever caused the apocalypse.
Heck, just be glad people still have dogs in the 26th century.
Anyway, Jack notices the Shivet rampaging through another village and decides he has no choice but to go and put it down with a lethal dose of tranquilizer. However, as he's about to shoot the dinosaur, he notices a strange device on the back of its neck, and after it tries to attack him, he manages to grab, rip off, and destroy the device, causing the beast to cease its rampage and walk off peacefully into the jungle. Jack and the others learn that the device was a short-range receiver and come to the conclusion that someone was using its high-frequency signal to enrage the Shivet to go on a rampage and attack people.
And that someone just so happens to be HAMR, Terhune, and his brothers, who Jack and company managed to beat the tar out of and scare off.
And the way Jack scares off HAMR is really convincing.
I'm talking 10 tons of fairy tale hammer. I'm talking fangs a foot long and claws like steel hooks. When that Shivet finds you, what's left of you won't even be a smear on the forest floor. I wonder if you'll be one bite. Or maybe two. Guess we'll know in a minute.
Man, that felt so good.
Jack then takes the transmitter HAMR was using and presents it to Scharnhorst in the City in the Sea, accusing her of providing it to the Terhunes in the first place just to ruin his reputation and do whatever she wanted with no restrictions.
They'll remove you from the Board of Governors when I show them that evidence.
Evidence? What evidence?
That was a pretty dumb move on your part, Jack. I mean, why didn't you just take that transmitter straight to the Board of Governors instead of going to the person you're accusing, who would no doubt destroy the evidence?
Because then we wouldn't have a major antagonist running the city. I mean, if she's gone, we wouldn't have a corrupt city official to go with the recurring poacher villains.
Yeah, but do they have to make Jack do something stupid in order to do that?
No. I mean, at best they could have made the entire council evil, but as we see, the two other governors aren't bad. There's Tolos, who seems level-headed and open-minded, and as shown in the second episode, he's willing to accompany Jack to see if he can carry out his desires without resorting to Scharnhorst's methods. And Delgreen, who also seems to prefer Jack's beliefs, and she appears to flirt with him quite a bit.
Not to mention dresses like a prehistoric Wonder Woman along with a cape, which is strange as the others seem to dress more modern.
But otherwise, they're far better people than Scharnhorst can ever be. Besides that, though, that's pretty much it for the first episode.
Now for the rest of the series. But maybe you could give me a different body first?
Yeah, I think the next spell is ready. Maestro! How's that?
Dude, a Pandaren?
Yeah, they're cool. You're like your own Kung Fu Panda. Okay, we'll change you next chance we get.
No, this is fine. I'm just surprised you've never featured Pandarens on your show before now.
Not enough opportunities, I guess.
Hey, got any bamboo on you?
No. Anyway, in regards to the series, there's not really so much an overarching storyline as much as it is a story of the week sort of show. There is some continuity to be had relating to characters we meet and how they turn out over time, but beyond that, there's nothing to really foreshadow something much bigger for the long haul.
I find the ongoing theme for the show to be very ironic. Dinosaurs were once the rulers of the Earth, but due to forces beyond their control, died out. And now, millions of years later, due to humans' arrogance and ignorance to what's around them, they've pretty much come back from the dead. And if humans refuse to adapt to the change in times and continue to mistreat nature and take it for granted without considering the consequences of their actions, they'll be the ones to go extinct, just like the dinosaurs.
So basically, be careful how you treat nature, otherwise it will literally come back and bite you in the ass. And each episode finds ways of showing just that. For instance, in episode 2, a herd of stampeding Macs end up destroying one village, and we're left with a choice to either lead them away from the settlements, or destroy them and risk other environmental hazards like...
What do you think the cutters will eat? Our cattle, that's what.
Ridiculous. We'll post guards.
Do you think guards can stop octopus weeds from choking our fields? Without any Macs to devour those weeds, our crops will die, and the whole city will starve.
So we'll poison the octopus weeds.
And pollute our food, ourselves, and our children?
Reminds me of the final episode of Jim Henson's Dinosaurs.
At least they won't end up bombing any volcanoes.
Nah, they'll do something like use an orbiting satellite death ray.
What are the odds? Wait, you serious? So Jack and his crew work to get them herded, but also have to deal with HAMR and his poachers wielding explosives. Because Scharnhorst really doesn't want to keep following Jack's mythology. It's part of a recurring political theme the show has regarding progress and what's the best approach to rebuilding humanity.
By the end, Jack's plan does succeed, and they all manage to herd the Macs to a safer feeding ground, all while avoiding any further property damage. However, the same cannot be said for Jack's cars.
Well, I learned one thing. Cadillacs and dinosaurs don't mix.
Title drop!
Another good example of humanity not understanding nature a lot is episode 5, which lets us learn a little more about the lizard people of this series, the Grith. For while their appearances tend to be brief at times, we know that they have no qualms with the humans, as they even took one in. This wild child that Jack and Hannah find riding with a bunch of Wahoonchucks happens to have the power to almost communicate with the dinosaurs and control them to a degree. Although Jack seems to understand how important he is to the Grith, Hannah seems to rather have the boy be with the humans.
HAMR, however, sees the boy as a potential tool to control and hunt the dinosaurs a lot easier, and tries to exploit his abilities to communicate with them for his own gain, even taking bets when the boy is thrown into a pit with an abused, half-starved raptor to show off his capabilities. What's worse is that the rest of the poachers are actually rooting for the raptor to win. Damn! These guys are downright heartless, sadistic, and evil for betting on the kid to die. A kid! But by the end, Jack and Hannah come to his rescue, even managing to free the raptor and return them both to the wild, where Hannah, after learning how much the boy means to the Grith, gives him something to remember her by as they watch the boy leave.
And I think now's a good time to discuss how some of our heroes tend to act in these episodes. For they tend to come up with different ways for Jack and Hannah to show what they can be like and what sort of character development they need to learn better.
One example is episode 8, where Jack and Hannah investigate the disappearances of their friends after being attacked by a monster inside an excavation tunnel, while Scharnhorst doesn't believe them, thinking it's all a stunt Jack is pulling in order to stop her from dumping her hazardous waste. They soon discover that the creature that had abducted their friends was a whiptail who was simply trying to collect food for its babies when they hatch. Sadly, though, they realize the eggs will never hatch due to the animal making its nest next to a leaking barrel of acid, and with it refusing to leave its nest, Hannah is forced to destroy the non-fertile eggs in order to force the mother whiptail into leaving, rather than stay and be killed by the city guards.
But all is not in vain, as one egg did survive to hatch and wander away from the nest, and after being reunited with its mother, the two finally leave for the ocean, allowing excavation on the tunnel to continue without any harm coming to the animals. This episode, like many others, shows the sort of dynamic Jack and Hannah have where they constantly go off each other on how to do things, since Hannah doesn't always understand Jack's methods, and Jack has to try and have her understand. But this is one of the few times where Jack, who is usually strict with his teachings, has to accept that some things have to be done to preserve the lives of others. It's a good balance between these two characters, so they're at least doing some character development.
Speaking of, there's also some development for Scharnhorst that helps paint a bigger picture of who she really is. In the beginning of the series, she's made out to be the crooked politician who'll do anything in the name of progress, even if it means hurting those less fortunate. For instance, in episode 6, where she has her men excavate an ancient laboratory after damming a nearby river that's needed by the dinosaurs. Jack and Hannah learn about this from one of the moles, who are a race of people that have adapted to living underground due to the cataclysm that caused the Dinopocalypse, and are responsible for digging up and selling pre-21st century artifacts.
It's revealed that the laboratory they're excavating is filled with an army of tunneling robots, which Scharnhorst plans to use to replace the moles in retrieving ancient relics, because machines don't complain, unlike people. But she soon discovers why the robots were sealed away, as they are self-aware and operate on their own after one starts attacking them. In the end, the robots in the laboratory are sealed away again by the moles upon learning Scharnhorst's plans to replace them, and the dam in the river is destroyed, burying the laboratory once and for all.
However, in the very next episode, Scharnhorst, while still resentful of Jack and his ways, is shown to be more morally gray than she normally lets on. Here, her men and the moles uncover an old freight car that belonged to an ancient research laboratory called General Technichem, in hopes of using any ancient technology that may be sealed inside. Mustafa advises her not to open the car until Jack and Hannah arrive to give the okay, just in case, but being impatient, she hires a poacher named Lashard, who years prior got caught in a cave-in after Jack interfered with his business, to detain him and Hannah so she can open up the car. Unfortunately, it's revealed that the freight car is filled with spilled toxic chemicals, which Mustafa gets exposed to when trying to close the car back up.
He then approaches Scharnhorst, tells her that this is what your great discovery has done, and he collapses in her office. And surprisingly, she not only offers to take Mustafa to the hospital, she tries to call off her deal with Lashard, as she learns Jack and Hannah are looking for a rare flower that can be used to make a serum to cure the sickness before it spreads to the rest of the city. But of course, he's too obsessed with killing Jack that he ignores her. Scharnhorst actually shows concern that Jack might not make it back with the antidote and could lose everyone. Granted, there's not really much of a follow-up after Jack defeats Lashard, but just the idea that Scharnhorst actually showed genuine concern for even her enemies shows potential for future episodes, so it's not always her being bad.
Geez, at the rate we're going, we'll be discussing every episode in the series.
Well, how about we mention 2 more and then get into characters?
Sounds like a plan.
So, we already had an episode about robots, but what could possibly top that craziness?
How about episode 3, where Scharnhorst, along with her mad scientist Dr. Fessenden, voiced by John Stalker, aka Saphir from Babar, and Kylo from Dinosaurs, and Toad from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, discover a way to take control of an ancient orbiting satellite death ray.
Wait, what? So you were serious earlier.
Yup.
Jeez, just how war-hungry were we if we had laser cannons, sentient killer robots, and a satellite death ray? And we still don't know how they made a second moon. Almost every episode seems to world build, which is interesting, but we hardly get any answers.
Anyway, Fessenden needs to get to an old station to better control the satellite, but unfortunately it's smack dab in the middle of Grith territory, so Scharnhorst hires Jack to help navigate through the area without him knowing their true plans. Of course, the Grith themselves aren't too happy with what's going on, and Hob warns Jack that they only have a limited amount of time to find the station and get out before they are forced to take action into their own claws. And things only get worse when HAMR Terhune learns of the death ray and captures Fessenden in order to force him to show him how it works, which he intends to use to destroy the city and the sea.
Jack and Hannah only manage to eventually stop them with the aid of a talisman Hob gave them, and just as they have the satellite fire at the control station, they rescue a baby Zeke from being blasted along with it.
6, 5,
Well, that's one way of returning a child.
0.
Then there's episode 9, where Jack and Hannah uncover an old storage capsule containing a hibernating man who had been placed inside during the 21st century before the Dinopocalypse. The man's name is Adamus, and he quickly begins to display a strange array of skills, such as being able to memorize the exact date, time, and weather of the day he was sealed in the capsule, preventing an accident at a mill by shielding an explosion with only a metal door, and is able to fend off a rampaging Shivit with only his bare hands. Damn! With abilities like that, there is no way this guy can be human, right? Well, that's because he isn't human. Yup, Turns out Adamus is an android who was built by the 21st century military in order to be the perfect soldier, and he couldn't tell Jack and Hannah because he was programmed not to.
Jeez, laser cannons, killer robots, death rays, and now androids? This was quite the future the writers predicted.
Knowing Trump, it could be a matter of time before we have stuff like that. Is Trump still president?
Nope.
Oh, thank God! Scratch that then.
Adamus is eventually converted to Scharnhorst's side after Dr. Fessenden hijacks control over his functionality. However, after he accidentally sets off a volcano while collecting explosives, Hannah is able to return him to normal using a command he taught her. Together, they're able to stop the volcanic flow from destroying a nearby settlement. Because of how dangerous he is, they decide it's for the best to return him back into the capsule. But before they do, they ask Adamus about what the world was like back then.
The world was filled with people. Foolish, brave, selfish, loving. All hoping for a better tomorrow. Just like you and Jack.
Thank you.
Still sucks that he has to go. Maybe they could have found a way to bring him back later. He seems like he and his kind have a lot of potential for future storylines.
Maybe, but I think it was for the best that he was reburied. Besides, he was too strong of a character to stick around. It would kind of make getting out of sticky situations too easy and honestly, kind of boring.
I guess.
But hey, there are other characters in the show we haven't talked about yet. Like, for instance, my favorite character, Kurgo, voiced by David Fox, aka Captain Haddock from the 90s Tintin cartoon, the local ferryman who drives the ferry to and from the sea in the sea and is a close friend of Jack's. And the best part? He's pretty much a cowboy.
Candide cactus. Ally. Kurgo.
Pass.
I say pretty much because while he does have the right voice, attitude, and sometimes even wears a cowboy hat, I think he takes some of the old cowboy lingo a bit too literal.
Cow punchers. In fact, I got some old cow puncher gear right here. They use these to punch the cows. But what I can't figure out is how they rode horses with them on.
There was also that one female poacher, Mikla, I believe, voiced by Lenore Zahn, aka Aisha Clan from the English dub of Outlaw Star and Rogue from the 90s X-Men cartoon. She was one of HAMR's recurring followers, but at one point they allowed her to have some character development, with her going undercover to spy on Jack's group. She was pretty convincing at it, but I don't know. I think if they gave her more appearances, I could see her possibly turn over a new leaf, since she still had to risk her well-being and hope Jack and the others help her out. Just a thought.
Honestly, I'm right there with you, Isaac. And finally, there's Nock, captain of the guard of the Sea in the Sea, who's just as, if not more corrupt than Scharnhorst. He basically hates Jack just as much as she does, and will follow her orders whether caring if she's wrong or not, and will even pull off scams behind her back. For instance, in episode 10, where he swipes Hammer Terhun's Slithertooth necklace from a scene of a crime, which was a crucial piece of evidence in proving Jack's innocence as he was accused of said crime, and tried to sell it off to the highest bidder in order to get rid of it and make some cash at the same time. If that's not bad enough, it's revealed that the tooth he apparently sold was a porcelain replica as he kept the real one on his person.
Why sell the original when you can sell a dozen fakes?
Speaking of, in the very same episode, we are introduced to another interesting character, Lazarus Brink, a bounty hunter hired by Scharnhorst in order to track down and capture Jack as he had escaped custody while being transported to a penal colony. Not only does he look like a badass with that helmet and goggles, and is even able to take down someone as tough as Hammer Terhun, but he is voiced by the one and only Cal Dodd.
And who would that be?
Oh, I'm sure you'd recognize his voice, Isaac.
Not according to the governor.
And what if the governor couldn't be trusted?
This is a savage world, Tenric. We won't survive without law and order.
Oh yeah, he was Wolverine from the X-Men cartoon.
Yep. And the voice of Slappy the Dummy from the Goosebumps TV series.
You don't give the orders around here. I do. From now on, you listen to me.
Huh. I honestly don't know how to react to that.
Though I am sad that this was the only episode he was ever featured in, as I do wish the character made more appearances later on.
Okay, well, if I had to bring up a favorite character, since you already brought up yours, I always felt Hammer had a lot of potential as far as recurring villains go. Every episode he's in, he tends to come off as a major threat and not as incompetent like most other cartoon villains.
Not as? Dude, the guy doesn't know how to read or write.
Is that how you spell Jack?
Yeah.
J-A-K, Jack.
Hey, at least he knows how to command his group, use feature tech, and even make intimidating threats like a boss. I'd say he's competent enough that if Jack wasn't careful, he'd be dead in no time. The way he's designed is very 90s with that flat top mullet, and depending on which episode it is, some scenes can make him more imposing, like his very first interaction with Scharnhorst. To me, he seems like someone that can work as a villain, but also a temporary ally if something really bad happens that forces him to do it.
So I guess that's it for characters, huh?
I suppose, so how about we talk animation for a bit?
Oh yeah, sure. I stated earlier in the review, I really like the animation style the show is going for. It almost feels like an anime at times, especially with all the letterbox scene transitions before the commercial breaks.
I totally get ya. It seems like Nelvana and the other aforementioned studios did a great job with producing this on a weekly basis, and I can't seem to find any other notable studios they could have outsourced, if at all. Although, is it me, or are some of the best quality episodes all the early episodes?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Despite some instances of using animated stock footage, like the transitions to Jack's garage, where we see the same group of Compsognathus run away from the camera, as well as Jack driving through the tree grazer herd and whenever Shivet attacks, the animation for a majority of the episodes is pretty good to say the least. However, with the 12th episode, you can clearly notice a downgrade in quality. And the weird thing is, it's probably the only episode to feature not so good animation.
It's mostly in how the characters look and move. It can appear off-model compared to most other episodes, and even the animation on the cars looks pitiful. Hell, even the dinosaurs look terrible. Not to mention, this is the only episode to feature a helicopter, and when it looks as stiff in motion as the rest of the animation, you know something is wrong. I'm just now realizing this review is looking pretty short compared to the last show we covered.
Well, this show only lasted 13 episodes, so that's probably why.
13? Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, sadly, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs only lasted one 13-episode season as it was cancelled after airing barely 4 months and quickly faded into 90s obscurity.
Figures. If it can't beat out others in ratings and toys, it ain't gonna last long. There were toys for this show, right?
Oh yeah, Tyco did release a toy line to help promote the TV series. I remember my brother and I actually owning a couple of them as kids when the show aired. However, while all the humans and vehicles look like they did in the show, all the dinosaur toys were recycled from another Tyco toy line, Dino Riders, except all the motors were taken out, which means the dinosaurs didn't move. And honestly, they were really lazy with them, like re-releasing the Deinonychus figure as Hermes despite the fact that he was an Allosaurus in the show. Plus, when in the cartoon do they ever feature a Triceratops with a catapult mounted to its back, or even a friggin' Kentrosaurus?
Well, at least the games look fun.
Well, except for the Sega CD one.
A living creature.
Just drive, Tenrak! Leave the shooting to me!
But I guess that's really everything we can cover about the show.
So what are your final thoughts, Isaac?
Well, as far as 90s shows go, I think it's really entertaining. I mean, it's kind of hard not to like it when you have a premise this awesome. It has a highly likable cast of characters, the action is pretty good, and there's some really good stories told that make me wish for more. The animation is also really good, for the most part, during a time where most shows need to outsource a lot more than others. This one has just the right style to bring out the best in the characters, the cars, and of course, the dinosaurs.
And being a cartoon from the early 90s, it does have an environmental message that, while not exactly subtle, still gets its point across without sounding too heavy-handed. And in my opinion, is probably the only good dinosaur-centric cartoon we ever got out of that decade. Well, compared to all the others anyway. And who knows? Maybe someday, if we're lucky enough, and knowing the times we're living in now, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs may become relevant again. Perhaps even inspire someone to reboot the franchise for a new generation.
But for now, it is readily available on YouTube through the Retro Rerun channel. We should warn you that some of the episodes are mislabeled and out of order, but that isn't really much of an issue. Definitely check it out for yourself if you can. You know, Huey, it felt really good to review something, well, good on this show with you for once.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to share something I cherish from my childhood with you and your watchers. Now, if only I could get my own body back and work on my show again.
Well, maybe my mages have found something during all this.
What? What is it?
Well, good news, you're not dead.
Wait, what? I'm not?
Nope. It seems you're just out of your body and need to be put back in.
But how is that possible if I'm not dead?
Well, the best I can describe it, it seems some sort of spell was put on you that put your body into a magical kind of coma and placed your soul into, well, our hell.
It was CGI, wasn't it?
Probably, but right now we have one problem. We don't have the means to put you back into your body at this time.
What? Why the hell not?
Probably because of whatever spell is on you.
So I'm gonna be stuck here as a CGI panda forever?
Well, I don't know how long it may take, but maybe seeing other reviewers might eventually lead you back to your body. I can try sending you to someone right now if you'd like.
Yes, please. I've gotta get back home and get back to work on my review show as quickly as possible. I've been out of the game for far too long, and I desperately want to go back to it before I lose everything.
Well, the last person I did a crossover with was with Big Jack Films, so I'll send you to him. Hope you find your way back to your body soon.
Okay. Thanks, Isaac, and just in case I'm not able to find my body and never make reviews again, I just want to say, it was an honor to work with you again.
See you on the other side.
Oh, before I go, here's a list of movies I'd like to see you review in the future. I mean, if that's alright with you.
I'll see what I can do.
Take care, Isaac. And to all of you watching out there, see you at the movies. Anime movies, that is. I hope.
Godspeed, dude. Well, now to check on all that loot I found in that tower. This one looks promising. Oh no.